Masai al everybody, Movit Davis, the tribeless outsider. I am sorry, I am exhausted, which is why I'm in bed. But for the last 3 days, thoughts have been ruminating in my head, and I have been wanting to bring up this subject in a video, and I haven't quite been able to figure out how to start the discussion. And in comes this lovely commentator and helps me start this discussion. So thank you to this commentator. The comment reads, "It's completely vile and inhumane. Listen, it's their playback. They've done this all over the world before we were all watching." If you don't know what this is about, if you click it, you can follow the links or go back to my past videos where we are discussing the fact that the United States sent khanzir or haluf or pork to Palestine during the month of Ramadan as aid. If you do not know the cultural or religious nuances of this, please follow the link and we can talk a bit more. But what I really want to talk about in this video is the fact that they've been doing this, and they've been doing this nonstop. And it seems like the last 100 years, this has been happening specifically, ruthlessly, to Swana people who have been demonized as nothing more but T-words over and over and over again. And what you're saying here, all over the world before we were all watching, that part is really important. So many are aware of the details now that are coming out of residential schools. They're aware of slavery. They're even aware of the behavior of American and even Canadian forces overseas. But people did not see what is currently happening in Syria, Iraq, even Iran, Libya, Afghanistan, Yemen. People aren't actively seeing what is happening there, and they do not understand the extent of the American involvement in all of these things. Both historically, but actively, currently, today. And the problem is that the infrastructures and the most of the damage was done before access to free social media was made available. And by free, I mean free speech. Not that we're free on this app. There's a lot of censorship, especially in North America. But the people who are organizing and collectively running this page in North America is actually a zombie American group, not China. But for the most part, we can speak on this app. All we had during Syria was Facebook. Can you imagine Marky Boy allowing conversations like that to be had or images like that to be shared? Because this was happening in Syria in 2015, 2016. I have heard atrocious stories coming out of Syria. I was one of the first responders upon arrival. I was a translator. I volunteered during that time. My mother, after she retired, volunteered for years, and most of the people she volunteered with were Arabic-speaking African countries. I joined in when the numbers started to explode, because in Swana countries, things were really starting to get out of control in terms of the violence that's causing the mass expulsion. And with mass expulsion comes mass displacement. And so they needed help. And so I joined the force that she was volunteering with. And the stories that I heard about Syria, from Syrian, coming, leaving all sorts of places in Syria, not just Damascus, but everywhere. They were coming here and telling me horrific stories of what the US was doing to them. Because here's the thing, the US has this textbook reputation of going into countries and making things look like a civil war. Look at Sudan and what is happening in Sudan. And I should add that Sudan, as well as other SWANA countries, because Sudan falls into the category of SWANA, they all are displaced within other SWANA countries. So where does the United States want us indigenous people to the SWANA countries? Where do they want us to go? Well, they want to eradicate us. They want us to forget our roots, our identities, either through displacement or mass extermination. And for those of us who survive and are forcibly displaced, i.e., every single immigrant that exists in North America and descendant of immigrants. Because unlike Blue Star Nation immigrants, we're not recruited and given an opportunity of a luxurious life. That's not how SWANA people end up in North America. We like to lie about who we are and how we got here to the general public so that North Americans feel good. And I think part of the cognitive dissonance of being a SWANA in North America is the denial that we were coerced into coming here. And I once had someone try to differentiate between immigrant and refugee. But unless you are a settler, like in the case of the Blue Star Nation, or a colonizer, like in the case of most Euro descendant and modern day European immigrants, there's no difference between immigrants and refugees. Because most of our land and most of the resources have been stolen and extorted. And then there's resistance groups, which are really uneducated, often radical extremists that are then given weapons by the United States within our countries. The CIA will radicalize neglected youth or youth that have been deprived of a quality of life because of the colonization in the first place. And then they will radicalize them and then give them weapons, while simultaneously putting in place the governments that are oppressing the people from whom the radicalized resistance comes from. And I say the term resistance loosely in this sense. Nothing like Hamas. Although the similarity is the desperation to become a fundamental activist. And again, I have a video about the definition of jihad. Look up what the definition of jihad is. The Arabic word of jihad means activist, not terrorist. The dehumanization of SWANA people has been happening for a very long time. And it's not over. It has become bloodier and bloodier with every new attack. From Iraq to Afghanistan to Syria and now back to Palestine, where it basically started in the first place. But it's not over. And you need to sit in the discomfort that your silence is going to lead to the mass genocide, not only of Gazans, not only of Palestinians, but of all SWANA people. And are you able to sit in that discomfort? But even more, are you able to live with not sitting in it?